The moment you stop trying to force a response, the moment you stop sending that extra message, making that extra call, or trying to explain yourself one more time, something unexpected begins to happen. The silence you create starts doing what all your effort couldn't. In many relationships, attraction doesn't disappear suddenly, it fades slowly, often because one person begins trying harder and harder to hold the connection together. When emotional distance appears, the natural reaction for many men is to chase it away. They send more messages, ask more questions, try to fix every misunderstanding, attempt to close the gap as quickly as possible. It feels logical. If someone is drifting away, you move closer. If communication slows down, you increase it. If things feel uncertain, you try to clarify everything. But what most people don't realize is that this constant effort can actually create the opposite effect. When someone already feels a little emotional distance, receiving more pressure, more messages, and more attempts to pull them back can make them feel even more crowded. Instead of restoring attraction, it can reinforce the feeling that the relationship is becoming heavy and overwhelming. And this is where silence begins to change the dynamic. When you stop chasing and allow space, instead of filling every moment with communication, you break the pattern she expected. The script that once felt predictable suddenly disappears. Before, she knew exactly how you would respond. If she became distant, you would reach out more. If she delayed responding, you would follow up again. The emotional rhythm of the relationship was something she could easily anticipate, but silence interrupts that rhythm. Instead of another message appearing on her phone, there is nothing. Instead of another attempt to explain your feelings, there is calm quietness. Instead of emotional pressure trying to pull her back into the conversation, there is simply space. At first, that silence might seem small. It might feel like you're doing nothing at all. But psychologically, it begins shifting the entire interaction, because when someone expects pursuit and it suddenly stops, the certainty they once had disappears. The person who always reacted now becomes harder to read. And when predictability disappears, attention often increases. The mind begins asking questions. Why didn't he reach out this time? What changed? Is he busy with something new? Did he finally stop focusing on me? These questions don't appear because you try to create them. They appear because the pattern she relied on is no longer there. Silence doesn't force someone to feel attraction again, but it removes the pressure that often pushes attraction further away. And when the pressure disappears, the emotional space you create becomes the first step toward restoring curiosity. Once the pattern of chasing disappears and silence replaces constant communication, something subtle but powerful begins happening inside the human mind. Curiosity starts growing. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotional triggers in any relationship dynamic. When everything is predictable, when someone always knows what you're thinking, what you're doing, and how you'll react, the sense of mystery disappears. The interaction becomes comfortable, but it also becomes easy to overlook. But the moment that predictability fades, the mind naturally begins searching for answers. Before the silence, if she may have known exactly how things would unfold, if she delayed replying, you would message again. If she seemed distant, you would try to close that distance with more attention. The emotional rhythm of the connection was familiar and easy to understand, but when you step back and allow space instead of filling every moment with communication, the rhythm changes. Now she doesn't have the same clarity about what you're doing or what you're thinking. The man who once made his feelings very clear suddenly becomes more quiet, more focused on his own life, and less reactive to every shift in the relationship. And when the mind can no longer predict someone's behavior, it begins paying closer attention to them. This is where curiosity begins taking over. She might start wondering why you became quieter. Did something change in your life? Are you focusing on new goals or meeting new people? Did you finally lose interest, or are you simply giving her space? These questions don't appear because you tried to create confusion. They appear naturally when the emotional certainty she once had disappears. Human beings are wired to investigate uncertainty. When we can't easily explain someone's behavior, the mind begins filling the gaps with possibilities. And sometimes those possibilities become more intriguing than the reality that existed before. Silence allows that process to happen. Instead of constantly revealing your thoughts and feelings, you give the connection room to breathe. You allow her imagination to begin working in ways that constant communication never allowed. The absence of immediate answers creates intrigue. She may check her phone expecting a message that never arrives. She may notice that you're no longer reacting to everything the way you used to. And over time, that difference can make her think about you more often than when communication was constant. Because when everything is known, curiosity disappears. But when a little mystery enters the dynamic, attention naturally follows. And sometimes attraction begins returning not because you said more, but because you finally allowed yourself to say less. As curiosity begins to grow and the silence continues, something deeper starts happening beneath the surface. Reflection replaces reaction. In most relationships, communication happens quickly. A message is sent, a reply follows, emotions react instantly, and the conversation keeps moving forward. When something feels uncomfortable, people often respond immediately without giving themselves time to truly think about what they feel or why they feel it. This constant back and forth keeps emotions active, but it rarely allows space for deeper understanding. When silence enters the dynamic, that cycle slows down. There are no quick replies to react to. There are no ongoing conversations to distract the mind. The emotional movement that once happened every day begins to quiet down. And in that quiet space, the mind begins doing something it didn't have time to do before. It starts reflecting. Reflection is different from reaction. Reaction is immediate and emotional, often driven by the moment. Reflection, on the other hand, happens when someone has the time and space to think back on past experiences without the pressure of responding right away. When you remove constant communication, she begins replaying memories in her own mind. Conversations that once seemed ordinary may start to feel more meaningful. Moments where you showed patience, humor, or genuine attention might appear differently when viewed from a distance. During the relationship, those moments may have blended into the normal routine of everyday interaction, but once they are no longer happening, they stand out more clearly. Silence creates that contrast. Instead of focusing only on the small disagreements or the temporary emotional distance that may have existed, the mind begins reviewing the entire experience of the connection. She might remember how you made her laugh during a stressful day, how you listened when she needed support, or how certain moments felt comfortable and natural around you. These reflections happen quietly. They aren't forced by conversations or arguments. They simply emerge because the mind now has the space to process the relationship without the constant noise of ongoing interaction. And that processing can sometimes change the way someone sees the past. When people are emotionally overwhelmed in the moment, they often focus only on the immediate feelings they're experiencing. But when time passes and silence replaces those reactions, perspective begins to widen. The mind starts recognizing the full picture instead of just the most recent emotions. This is why silence can be powerful. It allows the other person to experience the connection in their memory instead of only through the emotions of the present moment. And sometimes when someone truly begins reflecting on what once existed, they start realizing the value of the connection in ways they never fully noticed before. As reflection begins replacing quick emotional reactions, something else quietly starts revealing itself through your silence, confidence. Not the loud kind that tries to prove itself, but the calm, steady confidence that shows a man is comfortable with himself and his direction in life. In many situations where emotional distance appears, people feel the urge to prove their worth. They try harder to show how much they care. They explain their intentions repeatedly, and they attempt to convince the other person that the relationship is valuable. While the intention behind this effort may be genuine, it often creates the opposite impression. When someone constantly tries to prove their value, it can unintentionally signal insecurity. It suggests that they need the other person's approval in order to feel confident about themselves. Silence communicates something very different. When you remain calm and allow space instead of reacting emotionally, you show that your sense of self is not dependent on someone else's response. Your life continues moving forward. Your energy stays focused on your goals, your work, your friendships, and the things that make you grow as a person. This quiet stability sends a powerful message without any words being spoken. Instead of appearing desperate for attention or validation, you appear centered and self assured. The man who once reacted quickly to every emotional shift now seems grounded and steady, and that kind of emotional control naturally stands out. Confidence isn't always about saying the right things or making bold statements. Often, it's revealed through how someone handles uncertainty. When a man can remain composed even when the situation is unclear, it shows that he trusts himself and his path. Your silence becomes part of that message. It shows that you are not afraid of space. You are not rushing to fill every quiet moment with explanations or reassurance. You are comfortable allowing things to unfold naturally instead of forcing them. This calm detachment can change the way someone sees you. The person who once felt predictable and emotionally reactive now appears different. There's a sense of strength in the way you carry yourself, even without direct communication. And people are naturally drawn to that kind of energy because confidence that comes from within doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need the constant acknowledgement. It simply exists, and others can feel it through your actions. When silence is supported by genuine self respect and emotional stability, it transforms from simple distance into a quiet signal of strength. And that strength often becomes far more attractive than any attempt to chase validation ever could be. As your calm confidence continues and the silence remains steady, another powerful shift begins to take place. Your attention slowly becomes valuable again. When someone's attention is always available, it often becomes part of the normal background of daily life. Messages arrive regularly, conversations happen easily, and emotional availability feels guaranteed. Even when the connection is genuine, the constant presence can sometimes, because people to unconsciously take that attention for granted. It doesn't happen because someone intentionally wants to devalue it. It simply happens because human nature adjusts to what is always there. Think about anything in life that is constantly available. When something is easy to access at any moment, the mind stops noticing value the same way it once did. It becomes familiar, expected, and predictable. Attention works the same way in relationships. When you are always reaching out, always responding immediately, always ready to give your time and energy, that attention became part of the routine. She didn't have to think about whether it would be there, but because it always was. But the moment silence creates distance, that routine changes. The messages that once appeared regularly stop appearing. The emotional energy that was once easy to access becomes less visible. The attention she once experienced without effort now feels different because it's no longer guaranteed. And when something that used to feel automatic suddenly disappears, the mind begins to notice the difference. This is where value quietly returns. She may start recognizing that your attention was never as small or ordinary as it once seemed. The conversations, the support, the interest you showed, things that once blended into everyday life begin to stand out more clearly when they are no longer part of her daily experience. This isn't something you need to force or explain. The absence itself creates the contrast. Without your presence filling that space, the emotional gap becomes easier to recognize. The mind naturally compares what exists now with what existed before. And when someone realizes that a certain kind of attention, patience, or emotional presence is no longer there, they often begin seeing it through a new perspective. What once felt normal can start feeling rare. Your attention slowly transforms from something expected into something remembered. And the more someone reflects on the difference between having it and not having it, the more clearly its value begins to appear, because attention that comes from genuine care and emotional stability is never truly ordinary. Sometimes its true value is only recognized after the silence makes its absence impossible to ignore. As your attention becomes rare and the silence continues shaping the dynamic, the final shift begins to happen. Your focus moves completely back to yourself, and this is where the true power of silence reveals itself. Many people believe silence is only a tactic to make someone miss them. They see it as a temporary move designed to trigger a reaction or bring the other person back. But the real purpose of silence is much deeper than that. It's about redirecting your energy toward your own life. When emotional distance first appears in a relationship, it's easy to become consumed by it. Your thoughts start circling around questions. Why did she pull away? What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? What should I say next? The mind becomes focused on the connection instead of the person you were before the situation started affecting you. But when you embrace silence and step back from chasing answers, something important begins to change. The mental space that was once filled with worry and analysis slowly opens up, and that space allows you to reconnect with your own direction. Instead of waiting for messages or reactions, you start investing your time in things that strengthen your life. Your work becomes more focused, your personal goals begin receiving more attention, you spend more time developing your skills, your health, and your relationships with people who genuinely support your growth. Your world becomes bigger again. This shift in focus changes your energy in a way that people can sense even without direct communication. A man who is fully engaged in his own life carries himself differently. His confidence is not dependent on whether someone else responds to him. His sense of purpose creates a natural stability that others notice. And that stability becomes attractive, not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you are genuinely living your life in a way that feels meaningful to you. Ironically, this is often when attraction begins to reappear. When someone sees that your life continues moving forward without bitterness, desperation, or the need for validation, it creates a different impression than chasing ever could. You are no longer someone trying to hold on to a connection at all costs. You are someone who values himself enough to keep growing regardless of what happens. That mindset leaves a lasting impact because people rarely forget the person who walked away from emotional uncertainty with calm confidence and continued building a stronger life. And in the end, the real power of silence isn't that it makes someone miss you, it's that it reminds you who you were before you started chasing someone else's attention.